There's been a bridge over the Thames at Southwark since Roman times, giving direct access to the City of London from south of the river. A good place, it was thought, for the site of London's first railway terminus, opened in 1836. The line itself was a mere 3 3/4 miles long. It ran for its entire distance over a brick viaduct consisting of 878 arches between London Bridge and Greenwich. The first trains ran at intervals of 15 minutes in both directions, and for 1 shilling you could travel in style high above the rooftops of Deptford and Bermondsey. People still do, not just from Greenwich, but from all parts of southeast England, from Wadhurst and Charlton, Kidbrooke and Ramsgate, Mottingham, Tunbridge and Hayes, and 100 other places. Clerks and company directors, bankers, brokers, typists and tycoons, all London-bound every weekday morning on what is now one of Europe's busiest suburban railway networks. Their separate routes all finally converge into one, and for the last 2 miles, passengers from North Kent join company with those from Brighton along the final section of the old Greenwich line into London Bridge. London Bridge is the oldest of London's railway stations. Like its namesake in the nursery rhyme, it's long seemed in danger of falling down, and yet incredibly it managed to survive well into the 1970s.
This side out, please. London Bridge. Opening at platform 6 will call at Waterloo. Waterloo, Charing Cross, platform 6.
A difficult place for both passengers and staff. 2 stations in one on 2 different levels. A maze of congested platforms and narrow footbridges. Confused and confusing, bleak and uninviting. For many people, the battered old station is the end of the line, within walking distance of the city at the far side of the river. But not everyone gets off here. In 1866, the line was extended northwards over a narrow iron bridge towards the river. Swerving left to avoid Southwark Cathedral, through trains pass over the roof of London's oldest market, the Borough Market. Here they divide and cross each other. Left to Charing Cross, right to Cannon Street. During the peak periods on weekdays, nearly 200 trains an hour are passed through this one junction. What really happens at Borough Market during the morning rush hour can best be seen by speeding up the film by condensing 10 minutes into just 30 seconds. Stop, go, wait, the inevitable routine, a situation that all too often has meant frustration and delays for passengers travelling in and out of Charing Cross and Cannon Street. And for the people who run the railway, a permanent headache. The problem's not confined to the Borough Market area. When trains are held up there, the whole system is affected. Delays tend to snowball way down the line, far beyond London Bridge. Surely something could be done to improve the situation, to ease the traffic flow. But what?
I understand there's a suggestion from the signal engineer that we put...
There was certainly no simple solution. You can't just scrap the railway and start again. Too many people depend on it, day by day.
We are down now to 10 platform workings at London Bridge Central, which...
Whatever was done would have to be done within the existing framework. The present track layout would have to be remodelled, traffic rerouted, and an entirely new signalling system installed, without bringing everything to a halt. This was to make possible the sorting out of traffic on the approaches to London Bridge, keeping the two streams in and out of Charing Cross and Cannon Street quite separate, resolving the age-old Borough Market conflict. In 1972, a plan was put into operation. Operation London Bridge. For the public, the first obvious signs that something was really happening were at the station itself. Platform reconstruction began. A hole was driven through a dividing wall as a first step in bringing the two separate parts of the station together. Down the line, at key points, the difficult task of remodelling the old track layout had begun. At New Cross, a new overbridge was being built as part of a street widening scheme. This was to give an opportunity of adding an extra line through the station. At St John's, a ramp and bridge were being remodelled to form a railway flyover, so that Lewisham trains could be channelled into the proper lane for Charing Cross. On a site at Hither Green, whole new track layouts, complete with points and crossovers, were being fitted together like pieces in a gigantic jigsaw puzzle. A rehearsal for final assembly at Cannon Street. All traffic in the area affected by Operation London Bridge was controlled from 16 signal boxes, like the one at Borough Market itself. Much of the signalling equipment in these boxes had been in use for 50 years or more and was nearing the end of its life. The age of rods and levers was on the way out. So were the days of local control. These 16 old boxes, including the one at London Bridge, were to be replaced by a single new power box controlling 150 miles of track. Construction of the new box on a site just outside the station started in the spring of 1973. The lower part would house all the complicated signalling equipment. The upper floor would be the actual control centre. This was one part of Operation London Bridge that could be carried on without interrupting normal services. Remodelling the track was another matter. From 1972 onwards, in all seasons and weathers, the work has been going on, often under very trying conditions. Even minor changes were bound to affect services. So this work had to be concentrated into periods when the traffic was comparatively light, mostly at weekends. New points and crossings were brought from the depot to be coaxed and levered into position. Section by section, weekend after weekend, the old track layout was being subtly changed. At London Bridge, platforms on the terminal side of the station were rebuilt and extended. On one sweltering July day, surfaces were being asphalted on Sunday afternoon in readiness for Monday's commuters. Another major improvement for everyone using the station was the brand new footbridge, giving easy access to all 16 platforms. A welcome change from the narrow old footbridges and the damp underground passages of the past. February 1974. At South Bermondsey, a new electrical transformer was eased into position alongside the old brick viaduct, one of several that would be required for the power supply to the hundreds of new signals and point motors between New Cross and London Bridge. All now to be connected up by cable. A job that could only be done at night, after the last trains had stopped running and the main power supply had been cut off from the line. As soon as the new power box was built, the complex, intricate job of wiring and fitting out began. Everything, finally, will be controlled from here, from this one central control room, instead of from 16 separate signal boxes. By the end of 1974, the installation was almost complete, and the long job of checking and testing the new equipment with its thousands of electrical circuits had begun. On the display panels behind the control consoles, the operators will have a complete picture of the entire track layout, the position and aspect of every signal within the area, and the position and identity of every train. As the whole project develops, the track layout, points, crossings and signals are being progressively changed. At the route learning centres, every driver, however experienced, is having to go back to school. But no one is allowed to take out a train in service until he's completely familiar with the position of every signal and any other features along the route. All routes finally lead to London Bridge. And that too will be completely different. Two old railway stations will be merged into one, giving easy interchange between buses, tube and trains, and direct access to all services from the spacious new concourse with its own bars, buffets and shops. Operation London Bridge is a challenge and a promise of easier, more reliable services in and out of central London for all those who travel this way.